Hi, good evening, good morning, everyone. Today is the first session of IGIDR marathon. We are going to go ahead and do many of these sessions even in the future. The aim is to make you understand what kind of questions are going to go ahead and come in the exam. So what we are going to go ahead and do is we are going to take 15 questions per marathon. And in these 15 questions, we will go ahead and we will cover math, some part of stats, whatever comes, then micro, macro, and very less of macro, more of micro. And then we are going to go ahead and also do some part of English. Just to give you an idea of the type of questions that are asked in the exam. So to have a look, let's begin with the first question. It says that you're given a function f and the function is defined by x square when x is between 0 to 3 and 3x when x is between 3 to 10. Note that x is equal to 3 is coming on both sides of the function. So if you notice here also x equal to 3 is included and here also x equal to 3 is included. Just think about this. If I talk about any function, then I must have the domain of the function and the range of the function. So I must have some x's, and this is the value that the function takes. So this is f of x, isn't it? So when this function, I'm talking about fx, this function has x equal to 3 here also and x equal to 3 here also. Just remember this much for now. Now, let's talk about gx. See that this function also takes the value x square and 3x. X square when my x is between 0 to 2 and 3x when my x is between 2 to 10. Right? So again, I have this x where the value of the function is getting that x equal to 2 is included on both the parts of the function. Here also it is included and here also it is included. Okay. Now the question says which of the following statements is true? So it is asking, is fx and gx a function? Is fx a function but gx is not a function? Is both fx, gx not function, or is fx not a function but gx is a function? Now, in order to go ahead and do such kind of questions, you have to understand that we must know the definition of a function. And what is a function? We have a function as long as one value of x only links to one value of y. So what we do not want is that the same value of x linking to two different values of y. That is not the definition of the function. We can have, this is possible, that two x's link to the same y. This is a possibility. This is possible. I have two x's and they link to the same y. This is a many-to-one function. We know this, right? For example, absolute function. So if I have my fx as mod x, I know that if you put 1, you will get 1. And when you put -1, then you will get 1. So I know that 1 and -1 fetch me 1. That is fine. But I cannot have just one number giving me two separate values. Then that will not be a function. So let us go ahead and elaborate this here. So note that x is equal to 3 is included on both the sides. That means that whenever I put x is equal to 3, I should get the same value. If I get different values, then it will not be a function. So when I go ahead and I put x is equal to 3, in this part, I get 3 square, which means I get 9. And when I put x is equal to 3 in this part, I get 3 into 3, which is also 9. So one value of x is only linked to one value of y. So this is a function. It is a function. This is correct. But now go ahead and look at the second one and let's see whether this satisfies the definition of function or not. So again, I see that there is only one x which gets repeated. What is that x? 2. You see that x is equal to 2 comes here also. And x is equal to 2 comes here also. So I will take x as, now when I put 2 in this, what is the value I get? I will get the value as 2 square, which means I will get the value as 4. So 2 is linked to 4. But when I put the value of 2 here, because x equal to 2 is included here also. So when I put the value of 2 here, what do I get? 3 into 2, which is 6. So this tells me that in the function gx, when you put x as 2, it gives you the value 4 also and 6 also. That's not possible. One x cannot link to two y's. That's not the definition of the function. So we understand that the first is a function, but the second is not a function. So what do we have? We have that fx is a function, but gx is not a function. So this is exactly what I have gone ahead and done here. I have tried to find the value of x equal to 3 in the first case. It gave me the same value, so it is a function. And in the second case, when I go ahead and I look for gx, I find that no, this is not the same. I find that at x is equal to 2, when I put from one side, because x equal to 2 is included in both, so when I put it here, I get 4, but when I put it here, I get 6. I do not get the same value of the function. So this relation G is not a function. Okay, let's go to the next question. You are given fx is equal to x squared. Find f of 1.1 minus f of 1 upon 1.1 minus 1. Now, the easiest way to do this question is simply to find the value. We know this is the definition of derivatives, right? So we could have gone ahead and done that also. There is nothing wrong in that. But the best thing to do to get, because this is so easy, I would always prefer to go ahead and just put the value and check. So when I check the value of the function at 1.1, because this is fx, so instead of x square, I will put 1.1 whole square. Then instead of x, I will put 1 whole square. Then 1.1 minus 1. So I will get 1.21 minus 1 upon 1.1 minus 1. So I will simply get 0.21 upon 0.1, which will be 2.1, and solved. Students may start thinking a lot that, okay, this is the definition of f dash x. Let me find f dash x. Then let me try to put some value there. Not required. That will give you the right answer approximately. Had these been very big numbers, I would have thought of doing something like this. If this would have been 1001.1 or something like that. But it's just asking me for 1.1. I can simply put the actual value and check the answer, right? So this kind of questions would be asked in exam where they just want to test what is your approach. Will you be giving approximate answer or the right answer? Now, let us go to the next question. This says, find domain of the function, and you are given this. Very simple. We know that the domain of the function, if this is a numerator denominator format, we know that the denominator cannot be equal to 0. So all that I have to go ahead and do is try to complete this. I can just use completing the square method. I just want to factorize this, right? And I want to check what are those x's at which this denominator is 0. Just go ahead and do that. What will you get? So x square minus 8x plus 12 is given to you. This can be x square minus 6x minus 2x plus 12. Because 6 into 2 is 12. So x minus 6 minus 2, x minus 6. So this will be x minus 2, x minus 6. And I don't want the denominator to be 0. So I don't want x as 2 and I don't want x as 6. That is it. sometimes it may become a little tricky. Supposedly, the numerator. Now, if you look at the numerator, right? The numerator is actually x plus 1 whole square, isn't it? Because it is x square plus 2x plus 1. So this is just x plus 1 into x plus 1. And denominator is x minus 2 into x minus 6. But sometimes you may have the numerator like this. X square minus 36 and denominator will be the same. Then this is a case of which you will later see, something which we call removable discontinuity also. Which means that the numerator and denominator at some point, there is one factor that cancels out each other. Like here, I can rewrite this as x minus 6, x plus 6, x minus 2, x minus 6, and this can cancel out, and this can just give me x plus 6 upon x minus. So it's a good idea to also factor the numerator and check what are the factors of the numerator. It wasn't required in this case. So I understand that x takes all real values except 2 and 6. 2 and 6. So my set consists of only 2 and 6, not 2 to 6. So except 2 and 6, it consists of all real numbers. And that is the answer to your question. Okay. Now let's come to the next question. It says, which of the following best describes the reason for involuntary bequests? Please understand this. See, bequest is usually what you leave for your future generation. Like if my grandfather leaves something for me, it's a bequest. Now, the aim of keeping bequest is only when you are not very self-centered. If you care enough for your future generation, you will go ahead and leave some bequests for them. The question is, when will I have involuntary bequest? There are two kinds of bequests. One is voluntary bequest. I really wanted to, with my whole happiness, wanted to keep something for the future generation. But the other is involuntary. Involuntary bequest is basically when you are not in your mind keeping it for the future generation. You are keeping it because you are uncertain about your own future, right? Because there is some uncertainty associated with how you will spend your own retirement, about what will be your expenditure during your retirement. So usually when you are uncertain about your future, you may, it's like this. Today I am keeping a house saying that this is for my children. But in my mind, I may also be keeping this because I think that during retirement, I may not have enough money and I may have to sell this to keep a living. So usually, whenever you have considerable uncertainty associated with expenditure during retirement, that is when you have involuntary bequest, right? So you may intend to use that money for yourself rather than actually going ahead and helping your future generation. This is a theory, not this exactly, but whenever we study about consumption theories, this comes into being. So there is a very well-known theory related to this. Let me just brief you about it. That's called a taxation theory, actually. So what this says is that people are very, very short-sighted, which is known as myopic in economics also. So people are very myopic. What does this mean? It means that suppose government will reduce tax today, they will increase their consumption. People will start consuming more. People realize that if you have to pay less tax today, then this means that in the future, government will increase their taxation definitely. This is a theory which says that less tax today must be accompanied by higher tax in the future. But people don't care about that. A lot of people are myopic. They're short-sighted. They just think, okay, less tax today, let me consume more. Why? Because some people also argue that, this increase in taxation may come at a period when they don't have to pay this increased tax. But it is actually their next generation who will end up paying this increased tax. So it's like this. Suppose I know government reduced tax today and government will increase tax after 20 years. Suppose something like this. What will I do? If I care enough about my children, I know that they will have to pay more taxes. So I will consume less and I will save some money for them. But if I do not care about my future generation, I will remain myopic and I will say, okay, 20 years down the lane, I will be 60. I don't have to go ahead and I don't have to spend any money. Does not matter. So let me just go ahead and have more consumption in the present. Yes. So yes, Ishika, you're correct. We in fact have Ricardian equivalence and taxation theory as the two sides of the same coin. You're correct. This is what these topics are about, right? So in fact, this is true that but remember that it depends on whether people are myopic or not. And this is where the theory of bequests also come into being. Do I want to consume all my earnings within the same period, or do I actually want to go ahead and save anything for the future? Right. Okay, now let's come forward to the next question. So this says, suppose an individual intends to spend income uniformly during her lifetime. During the employment years, her APC is. So what is APC? Average propensity to consume. Now, when I am employed, then I know that my consumption has to take place out of my income. So in a way, my consumption should follow the very usual consumption curve, right? So when I talk about my consumption curve, it should be C is equal to C bar plus CY. I'm consuming out of my income. And of course, if I'm consuming C proportion, I'm saving 1 minus C proportion, which I will use during my retirement. Now, when I talk about average propensity to consume, then it is C by Y. So this is C bar plus CY by Y. So this is C bar by Y plus C. C is just a constant. And this becomes my average propensity to consume. Note that as Y will increase, this value will decrease. So I will be adding less and less and less. So this will decrease. And this is in fact the theory. This is what it says. It says that as your income increases, the average propensity to consume decreases. On an average, how much I consume will decrease. And let's take an example of this. Let's say that I'm earning 10,000 per month. And on an average, I spend 8,000 out of it. So I just save 2,000. Then I start earning 20,000 per month. Now, as I earn more, what will happen to my needs? Even if I try to double out my needs, there will be a proportionate amount that would be saved. So it says that you will consume, say, let's say 15,000, something like that. So keep on increasing your earnings. Suppose I start earning 1 lakh per month. Then also, whatever I do, even if I try to consume 60,000 out of 1 lakh, that means that my APC will only be 0.60 when earlier it was 0.80. So as I increase my earning, even if I consume a chunk out of it, after that also I will be saving more as compared to earlier. Why? because I have taken care of all my necessities. I have taken care of whatever other needs I had, but after a point of time, I will put it in the stock market. I will put it in the FDs. I will put it in some other form of saving. So as your income increases, your average propensity to consume will always decrease. And as your income decreases, APC will increase. So this is that APC is negatively related to your income level. This is what happens. So if you notice, this is exactly what it says. It decreases when annual income increases. It increases when annual income decreases, and it remains the same if my income is unchanged. If income is unchanged, APC is also unchanged. So answer to this question is D. This is actually a theory which Keynes also gave. So he said that as your income increases, on an average, the amount you consume will decrease. He said MPC will remain constant. That's why we usually draw a constant MPC slope, but APC will decline. Okay. Now let's go to the next question. According to Keynes, there is speculative demand for money because, see, if you remember, then we studied that the demand of money is for two purposes: transactional demand, speculative demand. Transactional demand of money is for our daily needs. That I want to buy vegetable, I want to buy fruits, I want to go ahead and spend in the mall. This is all transactional demand. But this part, this is my speculative demand of money. That means that I think that money also can give me some return. And because I associate money to return, I want to have some demand of money related to return, right? So this speculative demand of money indirectly says that money has a store of value. That when you go ahead and you save money in some form, when you use it for the purpose of speculation, it also fetches you return in the future, right? Transactional demand will not fetch you any return. But if I use it as a store of value, maybe if I put it in some FD, if I demand money for speculations, for returns, it will be giving me returns in the future when stored. So the speculative demand of money is highly associated to the store of value also, that in the future, it will go ahead and give you certain returns. So now read down the options. People like to speculate in the stock market? No, that's not the reason why you do speculative demand of money. There is considerable risk in holding M1 balances. No, if there is risk, why will you hold money? Because it gives you return. So we need to talk about return part, because this is asking you why there is speculative demand for money. Not because there is risk, but because there is return. So this is the right option, that money at times may be better store of value than long-term bonds. And if you remember, we actually went ahead and said that money market and bond market are, again, it's two sides of the same coin. So what is happening? When you will invest more in money market, you will invest less in bond market. And when you will invest more in bond market, then you will invest less in money. They are just two things going simultaneously. So that is why when you study one, you automatically study the other, right? So therefore, we always think that these are substitutes of each other. So if money gives me better return than bonds, I would invest my amount in money, and that will be the speculative demand of money, right? So the answer is C. Okay, come to the next question. A production possibility curve might be shifted outward due by each of the following except. This kind of question comes a lot in exam. A very They try to make it very tricky, okay? So just think about this. This is my production possibility frontier. This can shift outwards if there is increase in my resources or productivity. Then it will shift outwards. Okay. Increase in immigration. So if you have more labor coming from outside country, that means that this is simply an increase in resources. So this is correct. It can shift my PPC outwards. Movement towards a more open approach to free trade. Now this part actually comes from international economics. In that, if you remember, if you go back to your international economics lectures, you will see that we have PPC for 2 countries. And whenever they go towards free trade and they take benefit of comparative advantage, they are able to produce more. Because now, what will happen? Suppose I am labor intensive. Suppose I have comparative advantage in producing a labor intensive product. Now, once you open myself to trade, I will only produce that. I will increase the productivity in that way, and therefore it will be an outward shift, right? Something like this. PPCs will shift outward. So whenever there is free trade, because of comparative advantage, your productivity improves. And whenever your productivity will improve, automatically your PPC will shift to the right. So this is correct. Decrease in unemployment. This is incorrect. Why? Because this is not changing my labor force. My labor force is intact. So if you notice, my labor force is just unemployed plus employed. Now, if you go ahead and you decrease this, does not change this now. The labor in my economy is the same. Whether I fully utilize them or not will determine whether I am inside my PPC or on the PPC. It will not shift my PPC. It will just tell me whether I am fully utilizing the resources or not. So it can lead to a movement from inside to outside to on the PPC. But it cannot shift my PPC because neither there was increase in the resources nor productivity of the people. And finally, increase in educational level. Again, this means that people will become more productive. So we can link it to shift of the PPC. So this is very interesting kind of questions that are asked. You have to think about what are the reasons that can lead to a shift of the PPC versus a movement from inside the PPC point to on the PPC point. Okay, now come to the next question. Consider the following figure below and answer the following questions. So what is happening here is that this is your before trade and this is what happens after trade price. Okay. And the gap, no, sorry, both are after trade price. This is free trade only. This is before tariff. And then you have some tariff and this is after tariff. And this is the amount of tariff that you have. Now this asks you, in the figure shown, consumer surplus with free trade would be. That means when there is no tariff involved, what is the consumer surplus? So consumer surplus before tariff will be area below the demand curve above the price. That means below the demand curve and above the price. This part. So it will be A, B, C, D, E, and F. That means it is going to be this. Now come to the next one. It says consumer surplus after tariff would be. So go back. After tariff, the price is P2. So it is going to be below the demand curve, above the price. That means A and B. So answer is going to be A plus B. Come to the next one. It says domestic price and quantity demanded after tariff. I'll just go back and see. See, after tariff, the price is P2. This is the price. If you notice, at this price, supply is this much. And at this price, demand is this much. But it does not matter what demand is. If only Q2 units are supplied in the market, if only Q2 units are supplied in the market, then I have to only supply these many units, right? So therefore, after tariff, I will go ahead and only have a supply of this much Q2 at price P2. This is what would be the domestic supply, right? So the question says what will be domestic quantity, and that would be Q2 P2. Now it says in the figure shown, the free trade price and quantity demanded would be. So now just come back. So it is asking free trade, which means when there was no tariff involved. But this says, this does not use the word domestic. So you have to be very careful. This used the word domestic. This is using the word free trade, price and quantity demanded. So when I talk about free trade, you have to understand that this is free trade. This part is free trade. This part. ये free trade का diagram है. अच्छा, now you may say, ma'am, okay, the answer is P1, Q1. क्योंकि इतना ही तो domestically supply हो रहा है, but no, it's not asking what is supplied domestically. It's asking what is the total supply, total amount that will be there in this economy. So although this would be covered domestically, domestic suppliers would be giving this much, but this much will be coming from outside, right? This is what you can fetch from outside the economy, right? So ultimately the entire demand will be fulfilled in free trade. P1 at P1 price pe Q4. It's just that out of Q4, Q1 will be coming from the domestic part, and the remaining, this one, Q1, Q4, this will be coming from outside country or imported, right? But the entire would be fulfilled. It's a free trade economy. So you will be going ahead and you will be trading with others. So answer will be P1, Q4. So P1, Q4. Come to the next part. In the figure shown, producer surplus with free trade would be. So producer surplus with free trade. Now come back here. Now I am only interested in domestic producer surplus. Yahan pe import mat leke aana. So that's not included. So price before tariff was P1. So below price above supply curve, that means this much. So this is going to be my producer surplus. So answer is going to be G. And finally it says, in the figure shown below, as a result of tariff, government tariff revenue will be. Okay. So tariff revenue is how much tariff is collected? This much. The gap between these two. And on what quantity? The quantity that is imported. How much quantity is imported? Note that after tariff, the price is P2. And when the price is P2, the gap between demand and supply is this much. So this is imports. This was demand at price P2. And this was supply at price P2. So these are the imports, this much. And tax paid is this much. So import tariff is the quantity imported into the tax paid per unit. So this is going to be your tariff. So the tariff in this case is going to be E. So answer to this question is E. Okay, come to the next question. In the short run, increase in market demand will usually lead to, so this is a very simple question actually. It is just saying that this is your supply curve, demand curve, and there is increase in demand. So it shifts to the right. So the price will increase and quantity will also increase. So answer is this. Come to the next one. This is a good question. It says, suppose pigs can be fed corn-based feed or soybean feed such that the production function is P is equal to 2C plus 5S. This is your production function. 2C plus 5S. Note that this is linear production function. Okay, so we know that a kind of substitute good is coming into picture. The price of corn feed is 4. Price of corn feed is 4. And the price of soybean feed is 5. So PS is 5. We can find MRTS. We know the ratio of these two inputs. We can check whether MRTS is greater than or less than these inputs. And then we can just go ahead and check which input to use. So let's try that. So if we notice, the price of the two PC by PS will be 4 by 5, which will be 0.80. Our MRTS is the slope of this. So it can be MPC by MPS, which is going to be 2 by 5, which will be 0.40. Clearly, we can see that MRTS is less than PC by PS. And whenever this condition is satisfied, we know that you use only good S. You will use only input S. So I know that I only want to use the soybean feed. Now it tells me, what is the cost minimizing combination for producing P equal to 200? So now I will go to this P equal to this production function. And in this production function, I will put P as 200. I will put C as 0 because I don't want to use corn feed. And I will put S as whatever S I have because I want to only use S. So when I put it in this, I will get S as 40. Suppose they would have asked you, what is the minimum cost in producing 200 units? So I know that if I have to produce 200 units, I have to use 40 soybean. So I'm using 40 soybean. And I also know that each soybean, it costs me 5. So into 5. That means I will be spending 200 rupees. So sometimes they may ask you, what is the cost, minimum cost? And you should be able to find that also. For now, the answer is S is equal to 40. Okay, come to the next question. If the income elasticity is 2, the good is so. We know that the income elasticity greater than 1 actually is for a luxury good. So the answer is going to be A. Luxury goods have income elasticity greater than 1. Okay, now let's look at some of the kind of questions that can come from English section. Select the best pair that expresses relationship similar to the original pair. So have a look here. It says moderator is to debate. So what is the role of a moderator? The role of moderator is to organize the debate, is to make sure that people perform correctly in the debate, is to make sure that nobody cheats in the debate, to moderate between people, that now you speak, right? And it says, what is a similar thing to this? Legislator to election? No. Legislators, they are participants of the election. They don't moderate the elections. Umpire to game? Yes. An umpire actually moderates the game like a moderator moderates the debate. Auditor to lecture? No. Chef to banquet? No. Chef is not managing the banquet, right? So the correct answer to this question will be B. Umpire to game. Come to the next question. It says each of the following provides incentive to reduce negative externality except. So what is the role of negative externality? How do you remove that? Only when you have taxation involved, or merger, or property rights. Isn't it? We have studied all of this now. These are all the ways to deal with negative externality. So merger can help us, bargaining can help us, taxation can help us, but not subsidies. Subsidy is only for positive externality. So subsidizing should be done only for positive externality. Come to the next question. Under the cartel model, each firm produces when? Just think about this. When I talk about cartel model, it is like talking about a monopoly, because cartels merge, collude to form a monopoly. So when I talk about monopoly, how do you find the equilibrium? When MR is equal to MC, this is how you find the equilibrium. So answer will be A, when MR is equal to MC. This cannot be cartel. This is perfect competition. Average cost curve at minima nahi. You are producing at much higher profit. And then this says price exceeds cost by largest amount. No, we need one quantity. And that is where MR is equal to MC. Okay. Come to this. This also comes a lot in exam. This is, you should practice some part of active, passive, direct, indirect forms also. So this is select the indirect form of the given sentence. I love Bollywood music. Deepu said to Reena. Now you should know an English rule that whenever said to comes, this said to is always converted to told. Always. If you know only this rule, you will be able to solve this question. So only told is coming here. This says to, this is incorrect. Has told, incorrect. Will say, incorrect. Said to is always converted to told. So Deepu told Reena that he loved Bollywood music. Right? So this is the indirect form of this. Right? So you must know some active passive rules, some synonym antonym, and most importantly, comprehension for practicing these kind of papers. Okay. So that is it for today's class. This is just to give you an idea about what kind of questions can come in IGIDR paper, but we will go ahead and do some more marathons on IGIDR soon. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any doubt you have? Anything? Ishika, Anushka, anyone? Okay. Thank you.